Thank you again so much for joining the We Rise podcast today. We're so excited to hear more about Dante and the story of Dante in Southwest Virginia and how you've created change. Please introduce yourself to folks so they know who I have the honor of speaking with today.
I'm Catherine Pratt, and I've lived here all my life, born and raised here, and I'm glad you pronounced it correct, Dante.
I've learned.
And I'm Pat Gibson. I'm the chair of our Dante Community Association. Kat is our treasurer. I was born here, and at 6 months, we moved to the big city of Castlewood. And I was raised in the Castlewood area.
Great.
And in 1975, we came back to Dante. I've been here since 1975.
Great. So I love the big city of Castlewood. For people who might not be familiar with Dante and Castlewood in Southwest Virginia, tell us a little bit about, what it looks like and what the community's like and what it's changed like over time. And Dante has an amazing story, so folks are in for a treat today.
Well, at one time, it used to be a very booming coal town. It was the main office for Pittston, Clinchville office. And since the coal industry has kind of dissipated, things have kind of went down and the houses and all that. The company took care of everything at that time. So right now we're just trying to keep above water, trying to work with the community and bring some things in, new ideas, and help. We'd really like to help revitalize some of the community and bring some of the beauty back. The mountains are beautiful, the area is beautiful. But right now, we're just kind of struggling to stay on top. So.
Can you say more about what that looks like when you say struggling to stay on top, and about, you talked a little bit about bringing new ideas in. How are you doing that, and how is Dante struggling? Like, what does that look like kind of more day to day for folks who might not know what that looks like?
At one time, the company owned all the homes and took care of it. And as the company sold out, individuals bought, but there was kind of a dependency on the company to keep everything going. And that's not so nowadays. So a lot of the housing is run down, and we're trying to work with Lou and the community association and just try to revitalize, bring some life back into, get some of the structures tore down and cleaned up. And we built a playground, and we're working with a campsite at the old Artley School. They tore it down. So just trying to do a little community service, keep things going.
So it sounds like, projects here building on each other. Pat, how about you? How would you describe Dante's, history and also the broader region? And even for folks who don't know what Southwest Virginia looks like, how would you describe what the mountains look like and the rivers?
The mountains are beautiful. They're starting to come alive. The redbud trees, I'm sure you're familiar with the redbud trees. They're the first trees of spring, and the dogwoods are starting to come out. The Bradford pears are, my grandchildren call them popcorn trees. They're full of popcorn this time of year.
My kid's the same, yes.
But like Kat said, we have, through the years, we've seen, when we moved back here in 75, most people kept their homes looking nice and their yards groomed, but people have just moved off and left their homes. So there's so many that need to be torn down, and we're struggling with the county to address that problem. But since we formed our Dante Community Association just a little over 4 years ago, we have seen progress, and we're seeing more hope in more people. When we started this and asked people to join and come aboard, help clean up the community, let's help clean our creek and just pick up the trash, that kind of thing. And a lot of the response was, Dante's never had anything since the coal mines left, and Dante's not going to have anything. And I'm like, oh no, you're wrong. Because I'm an optimist.
I love it.
And I believe God has lots of blessings for us.
True.
And I think the more optimistic we are, and the more open-minded we are, and the more we help others. And just recently, grants are coming in. The the old Artie Lee School, which was the black school for years, has been torn down and been replaced with a campground and a laundromat. And it's right down below our ball field,
Okay.
which used to be very active. Every weekend there were softball ball tournaments. Back in the day, Clinchfield Coal Company brought famous ball players in here to play ball because that was about the only sport that the coal miners had to participate in.
Oh, interesting.
So the miners were underground. They went in before daylight. Lots of times they came out after dark. The only daylight they saw was sometimes on weekends. So my dad became disabled at age 62 from working in the mines.
Okay.
I come from a coal mining family.
So do I.
So
My
do
dad
I.
was my dad was a miner. My grandfather, my son was a miner, but he was injured. So
Okay.
I've lived here all of our life, born and raised here, grew up playing between the creeks, the road, and the railroad track.
Hopefully, well, nothing's coming down the road.
We had a very close-knit community. Everybody knew each other and shared things, and it was just a real nice place to live. But like I say, throughout the years, things have changed, and we're hopeful that we can get back up and running again and bring some new stuff in.
Yeah.
There's no steam plant. That the company had to furnished heat to some of the houses, so they've applied for a grant for that to open it up, and I think Workforce One
It's going to be an educational
wanted to be an
center.
educational center.
Wow, that's cool. What will that look like? Or what, will you tell me a little bit more about that project? Because I've heard about this steam
It's a big
powered
it was-
situation before. So unusual and interesting, it seems like.
Well, the company had it, and they kept, just steam. I used the coal, and it's furnished the steam and the heat to the houses, which had radiators and stuff in it. But since then, it's they turned it into an old garage. It's got some beautiful rock and Italian stone. It'd be a real nice structure. So we're hoping to get a grant and get that pushed through to
That
bring
grant-
some stuff.
That grant, as a matter of fact, is being finalized tomorrow
Oh, great.
and sent in for approval.
That's great to
Yeah.
hear. What?
That, it also includes funding for broadband, which we need so badly here.
Desperately.
Is
We
that
have no-
through the state?
We have no cell phone towers or anything in the mountains, so it's just hard to get things to come in. Nowadays, that's a necessity, is to have cell towers, so. And hopefully with the broadband, we can get connected.
One of our grants that's just been funded, and the work is supposed to start, there are going to be 10 jobs in Dane, which right now, there's a little general store. The husband and wife own it. They're the two employees there. And the post office has sometimes 1.5 personnel. Those are the jobs in Dane at this time. So
Yeah.
the Nature Conservancy is hiring through AmeriCorps youth 18 to 30 to build our trails. The first trail will be from our museum, looping around Straight Hollow and then up to our campground ballpark.
Okay.
The other will be an ATV trail, which will come from Honey Branch out of St. Paul into Dane.
Like 10 miles.
And that's going to bring people here because the spearhead trails, the mountain
Mountain bikes are really booming.
the system built in St. Paul, I think, was the first one with spearhead trails. And it has brought many, many people here. Some have decided to stay. They've bought properties here. So
Interesting.
hope is being renewed in Dane.
Yeah, beautiful. You talked a little bit about that moment of when people said, well, things aren't going to change, folks aren't here, to you saying, Pat, I'd love to say, you both said you're optimists and you just had to have hope. What gives you that sense of hope? What allows you to be an optimist and to keep putting one foot in front of the other when folks say things might not change?
Well, for me, being raised here and seeing how it used to be, it was a coal town, railroad tracks and all that, but there was a little life in the area now instead of the houses being run down and no businesses. There's been millions and millions of tax dollars took out of this little area right here through the coal company. And it's kind of like the company just kind of moved out and everything here kind of folded up for a while. So we're hoping that the younger kids, they need something to do here. And most of the people right now have been elderly that's lived here, and, you know, some of them's passed away. So I'm just hoping that we can get the younger ones involved and bring some more life and some more interest into the area.
Absolutely. That vision for kids and that energy in the youth, absolutely. But also knowing what has been. Pat, how about for you? What brings you a sense of hope and continuing to say yes when others might say no?
Well, I guess it goes back to my faith.
For both of us.
Being raised
in church.
And being raised poor, but everybody else was poor, so we didn't really know we were poor.
Right.
We always had plenty to eat, so, and we were healthy. We were family oriented, you know, on weekends.
Very blessed.
We were going to uncles' homes or aunts' homes or grandpa's or grandma's, and some Sundays we did a full circle, visiting brothers and sisters and each of our parents on Sundays.
And it wasn't nothing unusual during the summer months. If somebody had bushels of green beans or corn or something, everybody gathered on the porches and helped each other work. And you know, one neighbor knows what the other neighbor's kids are doing, so it beat you back home lots of times.
The stories.
It was just a real close-knit community, and I'd like to see that again. Really.
Do you still?
My husband was the oldest of 10, and his father always raised a big garden. So then when my husband retired, he decided to raise a garden. So he raised it on the big, like his dad used to, and gave it away on the way home, and still brought home plenty for me to can and freeze and eat and share with local neighbors.
Beautiful. Is that still happening? Are you still canning these days and share, you know, that sense of community and togetherness? You know, Kat, you talked a little bit about wanting to bring that back, but you both talk about a strong sense of community now. Is that still, do you still experience that sense of community?
I think it is, and mostly in people our age, maybe some of the a little bit younger, but I'd like to see the younger children have that desire also, and not just be interested in self, but see that the community needs them. And if we don't have workers and people that's interested in the community, we're just going to die. But I'm hoping, you know, things will pick up and we can move on and do better. But yeah, we all can. We go to church and everybody at the church shares and brings vegetables and produce and stuff. So still doing it.
And when you think about, you know, I've talked with folks, particularly at the Opportunity Southwest Virginia before, and UVA Wise, about entrepreneurship and starting businesses and growing businesses. And I love, you know, you described the 3 to 3.5 jobs in Dane and what it looks like. Some folks have talked about it really takes a different mindset to create a business for folks who have worked in coal companies or in coal company towns, you know, where there really has been a job that's been provided for, or there's been, you know, where the whole community really is centered around the culture of the coal company. What's been your experience in terms of people wanting to create businesses in Dane or in the broader area? Has that been something that folks have said, yeah, that's something I could do or would want to do, or what does it look like to create jobs? And for even your own families in mining, is that something like, what are they doing now if they're not in mining? Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like?
Well, when my son was injured in the mines, of course, he fought to try to get disability. The doctors wouldn't let him go back. So he fought for several years and never could get approved. So he's had to get a job, and he has to go to Abington for a job. So yeah, there's just no jobs in the area since the coal mining and the railroad industry has shut down so bad here too. So it's just hard to find any work here. And it is hard to get people interested in a business, but The owner of the steam plant right now is wanting them to come in and have like a training thing to train the younger kids, for computer skills or different things. And hopefully that grant will apply and we can get that building up and running and bring some new interest in anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it is hard to get people interested to come here for jobs.
Yeah.
And we're hoping Spearhead will bring a lot of new people in that will see an interest. We had a visitor from Florida, a realtor, and he says that we don't realize what we're sitting on with the beauty of the mountains and the bikes and things, and the climate, the access to 3 or 4 different states in just a matter of hours. So I guess where we live here, we just took things for granted. But he's seen quite a bit interesting. So we're hoping others see it and come in.
Can you talk a little bit more, and I don't know if you want to wait till Pat comes back, but about the STEAM building? You talked about that being maybe a training center before for computer sciences and other things. What would that look like, and how would that take shape?
We had some come in from one of the colleges came in, I think it's UVA, but they came in and done some design plans and gave 2 or 3 different ideas. And Mr. Williams that owns the building, he really liked the thought of not having just a place to eat, but he wanted something to benefit the younger kids. And he's seen it as a training center. And then Workforce One had contacted and they were interested in it. I think Blue has talked to them several times. So I'm hoping that it'll be a real nice facility, and the designs that they done was just excellent. That was wonderful.
That's so neat. And what would be in the center? Can you talk a little bit more about what it would look like? And is it something that you have to get grant funding for to get off the ground, or is Mr. Williams helping to make it a reality, or what?
That's the grant that's being finalized and sent in tomorrow.
Okay.
That's for the STEAM building and for the broadband internet.
Okay, that makes sense.
It had a place for conference, that people could meet for a conference, or the outside area was just really nice, little gazebo area, and just beautify the whole outside. And that we need a lot of that in this area right now. So, it was a really, really nice design that they brought back to us.
That's great. What a great resource to have.
It was.
And Pat, what do you see in terms of people creating businesses or jobs, or what type of work people are interested in doing as well, if they had options or more options?
Well, one young lady, she's probably in her mid-30s. She had approached me a couple of years ago about having a deli in the depot, which our depot, they're supposed to start construction on it, I think in April. So April's right around the corner.
Sure is. Sure is.
We're really anxious to see that start. It's been years waiting to get that depot restored.
I can see that.
In my home,
please go ahead.
My home, I have 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. But I'm an old lady, but I'm still dreaming of maybe having a B&B, bed and breakfast.
Yeah, that's awesome.
My granddaughter lives with me. She'll be going away to college this fall. But the way my house is made, of course, it needs a lot of renovations, not a lot, but some renovations. But the way the bedrooms and bathrooms are made in the house on the main floor would be ideal, I think. So I'm a dreamer.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm an old dreamer.
Hope it works for you.
I love it. You have to be a dreamer. And so where have you found those shared dreams? Is it just the 2 of you working in Dayton by yourselves, or where have you worked with others in other communities? What's really helped make this dream into what sounds like is becoming a reality?
Well, Kat actually started with Dante Lives On, which was our first nonprofit organization here in Dayton back in 2003.
4.
2000. Okay. She can tell you a little more about that.
It was an old building that at one time was a bank, and it went busted.
And at one time it was a beer
And
garden.
then they turned it into a beer garden, you know, and it was a booming thing back in the probably 30s, 20s and 30s.
Wow.
And a little restaurant-like thing. My mom's sister and them used to work in it when they were young. But then as they turned it into like a workshop for the company, and it was just full of junk and motors and tools and trash, just repair stuff. So when the company went under, they offered it to the community. And it's a beautiful building. We worked and got some grant money from the tobacco board. They gave us some money, and then a bunch of us worked together, and we had spaghetti dinners and bake sales and hot dog sales. We sold everything. But we raised enough. It was a matching grant. We got $22,500 from the tobacco indemnity, and then we had to do a match grant. So we raised it and revitalized the old, and now it is a Dante Coal and Railroad Museum. It's got some of the history of the area in it, and we got a model of the town that the way it used to be, with the big motel and the theaters and the hospital and stuff. So it's done very well. And I was on that board for 5 years, and then we started with the Dante Community Association. Some of them work together. Carla Gleiss and her husband, and Lou Ann, and all of us, Lou Wallace helped. So we've been on that, Pat and I, and all for 4 years.
A little over
4 years.
Did you come up with the matching funds of $22,500 through hot dog sales and spaghetti dinners?
Yes.
That's
Cakewalk.
amazing.
Yeah, it's no problem. Even when we have a spaghetti dinner at the community center, it's no big issue that we can sell $700 or $800 in spaghetti.
That's awesome.
You know, they come and do a takeout. But it's people here, I think, would be very glad to have something new and different. So it's just getting there.
It's the hard
We've
part.
been able to update our community center. We have new tables and chairs, and the investor realtor who came in from Florida to our last monthly meeting of the Dante Community Association, he was very impressed with our lovely community center. And we can accommodate, I think, about 75 here.
Okay. Wow, quite a few.
And when we have our dinners, when we sell, we contact the businesses in St. Paul and Castlewood, and
They all call in.
For the dinners. So you have the
Yes.
broader regional support. So they know
Right.
when the spaghetti dinner is happening, it's time to place an order, and it's time to dial that number.
I worked part-time a little while up at the Russell County Courthouse. And I worked in the treasurer's office and stuff, but my mom was real big on frying homemade apple pies, homemade dough and all that. You could sell them before you got them out of the kitchen. We've done lots of orders of apple pies and hot dog sales.
I bet. And are you still, talk a little bit more about how you've engaged, if you don't mind, the broader community. So it sounds like you started out with Dante Lives On, and now you have the Dante Community Association for the last 4 years or so. Are more people starting to join, and what does that look like in terms of working with others?
yes, actually, we had 10 new volunteers to sign up. Well, some of them had signed up before that. The paperwork hadn't been turned in by one of the members. COVID had brought a lot of fright and fear and isolation to a lot of people here in Dante, as well as throughout the world. But I found the best approach is just talking to them one-on-one and letting them know what's going on and letting them know what we need. And we've been able to add probably 6 young people lately that are really excited. As a matter of fact, some of them are downtown now, placing the cross for our Easter celebration on Saturday.
They're having an Easter egg hunt for the kids.
Oh, neat. That's exciting. And so are these kids who live in Dante, or they live in the broader community, and are they finding more things to do now? You had talked a little bit about wanting, that being a driver, wanting to engage kids more.
Well, I think we built Dante Community Association, raised enough money and grants, and got a a real good sized playground where the old company store used to be. So that's been installed, and you can see different cars, come from Dickinson County, and as they come through, they stop and let the kids play and stuff. And there is a stage that the Dante Lives On had built. So we had been making music, and then we had a big Dante reunion. Our first Dante reunion had over 900 people here. So
Oh, wow.
they came from everywhere, just, as a reunion, and everybody loved it. And the second year done real good, but as times went on, as they've got, the older folks has not been able to travel. So we're hopefully going to try to get that going again in August.
After COVID, everybody's ready for
That's right.
events again. Everybody says, please sign me up. Yeah. So when you think a little bit more about the broader region, it could be Dante, or it could be Southwest Virginia, or even, Eastern Tennessee or Eastern Kentucky. What makes you excited? What makes you excited about what you're seeing in communities, or in working together in partnerships, or in other ways?
Well, it's not just happening here, it's also happening in Dickinson County and Wise County and, all of Southwest Virginia. Pocahontas started with their exhibition mine and their little cabins and their Hatfield and McCoy cabins, I think they're called. I don't know if you're familiar with there was an ongoing feud between the Hatfields and McCoys.
I
remember that story?
I am.
But anyway, they're seeing an increase in tourism. I have some cousins that live up there, and then we met a good friend just in networking that works with the exhibition mine there. And in talking to her, even with COVID, people are still coming to ride the trails and to breathe the mountain air and to see the old folks back home.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that the man from Florida talked about was the hospitality of the area. He said that was a sure sale because everybody was just so friendly and opened their arms to, people that came in. And I hope that stays on forever, that they can see that we're just good old country folk, mountain folk.
Yeah, absolutely. And so where do you feel like, what's your hope for the future of Dante? When you think about where Dante you want to see the community in 5 years or 10 years, what do you envision happening, or even 20 years?
You arriving on a train.
I love that.
Tourist train. All the states that border us have a tourist train. Virginia doesn't have a tourist train.
Interesting. Huh.
And the tracks goes right through town.
Yeah.
Main line and stuff. So
And when Clinchfield Coal Company was built and Clinchfield Railroad, the train was to take the coal out, but passengers, the train was busy. I think the trains ran several times a day back then.
Oh, a lot.
Yeah. Are the tracks still in good shape? Or could they be?
Yes. CSX still runs the trains, and we had the Santa train for 75 years until last year. We didn't have the Santa train because of COVID last year. But that Santa train could be used. I don't know if it's being used for tourist trips in Florida, but it could be used for tourist trips in Dante.
It sure could be used for tourist
Go across
trips
the mountain to Kentucky or across the mountain to Tennessee.
I love
Yeah.
that.
I don't see it in my lifetime, but 20 years, yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Hop out of your B&B, have a good breakfast, hop on the train, go over to Kentucky, come back.
Well, hopefully that depot down there might make a good spot to do all of that.
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
the train could be a dinner train.
Yeah.
I love that.
Tourism, sightseeing.
There's a little town up in West Virginia. I've not been there for several years, but there was a dinner train there. The only thing in that little place was a little restaurant and that train.
Is that in Cass?
It was near Cass, I think. It was Cass and Elkins.
We took that train, if it's the same one, with our kids when our son was a toddler. And, it's amazing going up the mountain. And for his, he's 13 now, but he loved trains so much at that time. And as we started going up the mountain, and the smoke coming out, his eyes got so big and chugging up to the top. It was
the waterfalls. Did you see the waterfalls?
We didn't see the waterfalls there. We went up to the very top of the mountain and then came back down. But they had a couple different trips you could take. But it was just about the most exciting thing for a young boy at that time that I could imagine. You know,
It would be
riding on the
exciting.
rail
It
train.
was exciting for this old lady.
Me too.
I think it was 2012 or 13 when I went.
What a neat idea. I love that. And Kat, how about you? When you look ahead 5 or 10 or 20 years, what's your vision for the future of Dayton?
I'd just like to see the community, the housing and the area cleaned up and stuff. That's just a big pet peeve with me.
Mm-hmm.
The houses have run down, most of them, and some of the younger kids that move in don't seem to have much self-esteem or care about how they look to, you know, to take care of them. So I'd like to see some of these old ones that, you know, the roofs are fell in and they're so dilapidated. It just gives the community a black eye, I think, for somebody to come in. And I hope that the county can work with us and help get some of this cleaned up, that it'll be something, you know, more for the visitors that come in, that they see they'd like to live here. And Lou has also worked with us doing some community development on housing and maybe do 4 or 5 for a start, to try to bring some interest and stuff in the community. So we're hoping.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you seen that some people have fixed up houses or buildings? Has that happened much? Or is it really that they're kind of past the point of being able to be fixed up and reused?
It will take quite a bit to fix a lot of them. But we had a lady come in from New York. She came in and bought one of the houses, and she just come in for us, you know, maybe once a month or summer and stuff. But we've had several move in on up above in the holler from where I live. So I'm hoping that the area will sell itself, really.
That's interesting. And when how are folks feeling about others coming in and buying houses? Has that been a very welcoming feeling? Because I know in some places that's hard for a community to see people not from the region buy houses.
I don't really have a problem with it. I just hope, you know, that they're good, friendly people that come to the area and show the same hospitality that we'd like to be shown. But
yeah, absolutely.
I just hope that they come in to see the beauty of the area and to have a community sense, you know, that they want to work and be in a better place. The gentleman told us, you know, it ain't everywhere you go that you can have access to 2 or 3 different states. It's just a matter of hours, from Tennessee to West Virginia to Kentucky. So we're kind of in the center part, and there is a lot of beauty. There's a nice waterfalls over in the Cleveland area, which is just about 15 miles. It's not very far. High Knob area in Wise County is beautiful. The Clinch River, they've been floating, you know, the river now, the mighty Clinch. So that's been nice for St. Paul. And I think just little by little things that's been drawn in, like the Spearhead Trail. So we're hoping and praying that things will look up.
Yeah, it sounds like they
Like
are.
Kat said, we're close to several state parks, and then we have our interstate park, the Breaks Interstate Park in Hayside, which is Virginia and Kentucky, which is known as the Grand Canyon of the Southeast.
Southwest.
Yeah, we're actually
It's beautiful.
we're camping there next week for spring break as a family. Our kids mountain bike, and so we just as a random aside, we were looking at the Smokies, which we've been to before, but you can't take dogs. And you can't mountain bike in the Smokies. Well, we were like, well, that's off the list. And so we started looking around, and we were like, the Breaks. So I've never been, and everybody says it is absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, it is. My grandson lived in Destin, Florida, and they came all the way from Florida to get married at the Breaks in October.
That's cool.
The leaves were beautiful. You know, it's a little windy up there, but come on over and you can go zip lining.
I have heard that they're not going to have the zip lining open yet. It sounds like, and but we'll go back. We'll go back. Not a problem. There's only so many things.
It is beautiful. They've got a beautiful lodge over there and a nice restaurant. So it's really a beautiful place.
Yeah, the food's great at the restaurant.
That's good to know. they're going to open before we get there, the day before we get there, which I'm excited
Well,
about.
good.
I'm excited about that.
Now, where do you live?
I live now in Central Virginia, near Charlottesville and Crozet. But so it's about 5 hours, I think, to the breaks. But that's what, to be honest, our son loves to mountain bike. Our daughter bikes. My husband's a coach. And just going somewhere we can be together as a family, and it's beautiful, and we can take the dog, and it's not too crowded. That meets all of the things that we want to do. So
Bring your fishing pole and you float, and you can float the river.
we will.
Or fish.
We will. Absolutely. We will. So thank you for that. So, a lot of community members in other communities aren't sure where to start. They're not quite sure. They want to make change in their communities, but a lot of times people are still feeling really sad about the way their community used to be, and it's hard to think about what could happen in the future. What advice would you offer to other community members and other communities similar to Dante about where to start? How can other folks start to create the change they want?
I think you really have to have a vision that you want things to improve. And if you don't have that vision and keep pushing, it's very easy to get aggravated and give up. And been there, done that. But it's harder, seems like, to get people interested. They come and do things for a while, and then they kind of fizzle out and don't come back and think it's just hopeless. But you just have to keep going on. And St. Paul's a prime example of that. They've really pushed hard down there and done a tremendous job. And things are really picked up in St. Paul. The nice hotel, the brewery that got a nice restaurant, and other little shops that's popped in, and it's just a real nice place. And I'm hoping that we can do that in our area.
Absolutely. Pat, how about you? What would you say to other people who are not sure where to start in their communities?
Well, I had thought about trying to interact with St. Paul back when they first started, and I didn't know how to get in.
Yeah.
We're the blind lead the blind.
My advice would be, get involved with other communities, help them, and then hopefully they'll come back and help us. More you give, the more you get. That's my slogan.
Yeah.
And you realize too, as you work, and they faced the same issues that we did. They had a large crowd at one time that started out, and you kind of get down to a core group, which is a lot of work for a core group. But you just have to keep going and trusting God that things will get better.
One foot in front of the other. Yeah.
My husband's a minister, and he's been in ministry for 25 years now. So he pastored a little church up on Hazel Mountain, which is in Dickinson County, and then we were there for 18 years, and now he's down on the Clinch River on River Road. We pastored a little church down there. Great. So and once you get people interested and they have a vision, they're good to get in there and work and help. Same way in communities as it is in church. Just work together.
Beautiful. And when people say, I have an idea, and I think it's really important for people to hear from other communities, because so many community members want to create change, but they really don't know where to start. So when people have a vision and they don't know who to connect with, you talked about the importance of just reaching out. Literally, what are some of the things they could do? Is it through the church primarily, or is it really just kind of starting with whoever they might know? Or where can people share that vision, their ideas for their communities with others, do you think?
Probably the main starting point would be with the county administration, and also with our local politicians. This abandoned mine land money that we're getting the grants from now, we didn't know about it for the longest time.
Yeah.
So we didn't get it.
Right.
Then we found out about it. We started, doing the applications for the grants, and the checks started coming in, and the projects, some of the community were just so negative. Well, I've not seen anything yet. You've not done anything with this depot, which
it takes years.
Sure does.
But we're starting to see the fruits of our labor.
I have found also that it's been really educational to go to different areas and attend some of the meetings. There's just a lot of information out there that you're not aware of that you can pick up and learn from other areas. We went to Pocahontas to the little mine simulation that they have up there and met with some of their local people. And it was just so encouraging. It was to me to see what they were doing. And then when we came back, we had a van load that went up and spent a day and just looked through the old town and seen their depot. And it's just encouraging to see all of that. And it gives you hope that you can just keep trudging on and bring it to our area.
Mm-hmm. So, beautiful. That's great.
So.
How'd you find out about Pocahontas? And what gave you the idea to go there?
Luann, I think, introduced us to
so it was a connection
lady
point.
who was in charge at the time.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that. Well, as we get ready to wrap up, is there anything else, any other advice you'd share with others, or anything else you'd love for folks to know about Date?
Just don't give up. Just keep a good attitude and really talking with everybody, encouraging. Like I say, I've been on that on that end where you do get discouraged and stuff. But I think most of it is just keeping in contact with the people in the community and keeping a good vision. So
yeah, well said.
And keeping hope alive.
There you go.
And Pat, how are you keeping hope alive for people who are? I love that.
We lean on each other a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I have grandchildren and great grandchildren that drive me crazy, but bring me joy at the same time.
I love it. It sounds
Come by
like
this weekend. Well, come by this weekend. I'm going to have a house full from South Carolina. So.
I love it. Thank you. It sounds like, some of the things I've heard that really resonate, that you'll find struggle, it sounds like, and work your way through the struggle.
You do.
Keeping hope alive, knowing there's hope and joy in all families like we all have, but really also finding a vision and continuing to work and putting one foot in front of the other and know it's a long haul journey, but it's possible. Connecting with other people and seeing what's happening in other communities to create change. And I love what you said about, there are grant dollars out there you just didn't know about. It just took finding out about them, and now here the checks are coming in and you're seeing change.
Well, we went before the tobacco board to ask for the renovation, a grant, to do the old beer garden up here. They were just shocked that we had asked for such a small amount. I wasn't aware that you could have asked for millions. Like I say, the other communities really has helped us a lot with advice and encouragement. So I think that's been a big asset to us too.
So key, working together. Anything else you'd like to share before we get ready to close out today?
Thank you so much.
We appreciate your interest in our little town.
Well, it's been such a delight, the wisdom that you've shared and the faith and the hope that you've shared. It's, really inspirational, and I really am excited for other people to hear about Date, and we'll let people know in the notes how they can find out more about what's happening with Date now and coming up. So
okay.
Keep us.
We're hoping the Spearhead Trail will start working in May? Supposed to?
Probably June.
Somewhere's in there.
I think they're hiring through May.
Soon. Coming up soon.
Soon.
Yeah. Well, thank you again.